evening, everyone. It's nice to see so many of you come out today for our May event. And thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy lives and the beautiful weather to join us here tonight. Before I introduce tonight's speakers, I would like to give you a brief overview of our Historical Society. My name is Kim Young and I am our president. Our organization just celebrated our first birthday, and we have an ever-expanding list of programs and events. We are hosting these monthly public speakers now regularly. We started last fall, and 3 of our upcoming programs are on June 12th. We have John Duda coming to speak to us about the history of postcards and how to understand postcards as a part of history and interpret any postcards you might have. There's an open invitation to bring what postcards you have, and we can talk about those together. On July 11th, Shelby Mattice, who is retiring as curator of the Bronx Museum and as part of the Greene County Historical Society, will be joining us for a program on food and history. It is the Dutch Pathways program. Following that event, we will have an ice cream social. And August 15th, Diane Galusha is going to join us to talk about the civilian conservation courts in the Catskills. So those are 3 of our upcoming programs. There's a sign-in sheet going around. I'm not sure where it is at the moment. Okay, it's over here by Amy. If you have an email address, you can write that down and we'll put you on our mailing list. We will also, we post a lot on Facebook, and we've been trying to put up flyers on our events. In addition to our monthly programs, we've been working on a number of other items, including research, applying for historic markers, and a bunch of other stuff. On Friday, June 9th at 5:30 p.m., we'll be having an unveiling for the Peter Couchman Historic Marker, 2 houses down, the yellow house here. So you're invited to join us for that. If you're interested in joining, you can see the green shirted lady right here in the middle. She has some membership forms. And immediately following today's program, there will be time for refreshments, and we will also have a brief membership meeting 10 to 15 minutes after the program ends. I think that's all for that. Tonight, I am honored to introduce Robert and Johanna Titus to speak on Conesville during the Ice Age. Robert is a retired geology professor, and Johanna, sorry, I said that 1%, is a retired biology professor. And they are best known as the Catskill geologists. They write for regional magazines Catskill Life and Upstate Life, as well as columns in local newspapers, including the Columbia Paper and the Mountain Eagle. They've written 4 books on local geology and are invited to lecture on their research around the area. We welcome you to our area tonight, and we are extremely grateful for your willingness to share your work. Thank you so much.
Good evening. And you just heard we're Robert and Johanna Titus, and we are supposedly retired, although my husband seems to be keeping me more busy now that we're retired. So we've been writing together for about 20 years now and giving talks throughout the Catskills and the greater Hudson Valley. And yes, we have published 4 books together, have a 5th coming out in the fall. And we also write columns for newspapers and magazines. And the Mountain Eagle is probably the one you know the best around here. And we have a Facebook page and a blog. And we'll put those addresses up at the end of the talk today, along with our email address in case you want to get in touch with us. So this evening, we're going to concentrate on the Ice Age history of Glacial Lake here in Grand Gorge. And that's shown here in lighter blue. The dark blue is today's Schoharie Reservoir, just to give you an idea of scale. And Glacial Lake Grand Gorge, during at least part of the last ice age, encompassed the Manor Valley. We're calling the embayment to the east and upstream of the reservoir in the Manor Valley, Glacial Lake Conesville. When we go exploring, there are certain indicators that we look for that tell us that there was once a glacial lake in the area. The first of these is a slightly elevated area surrounding a lower, very flat expanse. It represents a shoreline and a lake bottom, and this was taken along 990B. Another feature we look for are deltas, areas where streams flowed into the lake and left a very distinctive pattern of sediment. Here's a graphic of a delta pattern. At the top or top set, the strata are horizontal. Below that is an area where the strata are inclined toward the lake. And then there's a bottom set of strata that are nearly flat, following the lake bottom. So we went looking in the Manor Valley, and we should say that deltas are not always easy to find. But along 990B, we spotted an exceptional one. I labeled the picture so it would be easy for you to spot the top set and foreset and bottom set as we found it. Again, along 990B. And this is from Hubbard Hill Road, looking up at the delta. And this tells us that what we hypothesized about there being a glacial lake was confirmed. We were right. We can't always say that. There's also an area of post-glacial canyon eroded by the Manor flowing to the west over Manor Falls and into the reservoir. Well, more than 25,000 years ago, ice began to accumulate in several centers in the north. The one that concerns us is the Labrador Center, where the Laurentide ice sheet formed. So much ice built up that with gravity pushing down on it, it started to spread out. It began to flow. And as it spread, it flowed south into New York, pushing down to form 4 lobes. The lobe we're most concerned with, the one that directly affected us, was called the Hudson-Champaign lobe. And this lobe flowed down the Hudson Valley, across parts of Pennsylvania and New Jersey. It stopped flowing and formed a terminal moraine, which is in dark gray, where tons of material got pushed and carried by the glacier. And then when the glacier started to melt at its very end, it dumped all that material. As you see here, there is a gap right in the area that we call the Verrazano Narrows today. That's because a glacial lake called Glacial Lake Iroquois, that was as big as all the Great Lakes combined, way up north at the end of the Adirondacks, broke through an ice dam that was holding it in and catastrophically flooded the Champlain and Hudson valleys. And when it got to the terminal moraine, it just broke right through it, draining back into the Atlantic. There is some talk that even in trying to break through that terminal moraine, it found a path around it and actually formed Staten Island. And so Robert's going to continue the story for a bit, and I'll be back.
Well, your first anniversary, huh? You're a baby historical society. Johanna and I are very active with the Mountaintop Historical Society. It's a very important part of our life, and participating in their events is something we've been doing for 23 years now. We're members of the Greene County Historical Society as well, and active with them. We should become members of your group, so maybe you can sign us up.
Mountaintop is celebrating 50 years this year.
Yeah. What a remarkable thing it is to have a historical society, and it's so important for you to learn the history of your community. The story that we're going to present to you tonight is about that glacial lake. And okay, which one do I push this? May I ask this one?
Yeah.
Oh, there's the remote. Working? Okay.
It should be.
It should be, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, see, it doesn't work on the screen.
No, the laser pointer doesn't work.
Yeah.
But the advanced does. Advanced.
Okay, all right. Okay, yeah. Mhm. Sorry for her, she's married to me. It worked. Now, when Johanna left off, she was talking about the broader picture of the Ice Age, and she showed you the slide of the ice, the Laurentide ice sheet spread out across all of the North American continent, including Conesville, for crying out loud. I always like to ham it up. And I stand up and I turn in a 360-degree circle, and I look up above me and I say, all of this 20,000 years ago was ice. And the darndest thing is, that's true. If we stood here 20,000 years ago and turned those 360 degrees, our hands would be passing through ice, and that ice would reach up into the sky above us, no less than 3,000 feet. Pause and think about that for a moment. Oh, this was the Ice Age. This was truly the Ice Age. Right here, it comes up in 2/3 of North America.
Robert, stay in the camera.
Oh,
The people in the
Someday, we've always been married 23 years. Someday she'll get me sorted out. And, but anyway, look at that map. It's so terribly important. It's something that you really should have a handle on. So much of our North American continent resembled so closely Antarctica 20,000 years ago. It got all the way down to Long Island, and then the climate began to warm up. Good global warming came in and began melting back that glacier. The lines that you see up there mark moraines or terminal moraine lines that reached as far south as the glacier was at that moment. The farthest south is right here. Then it warmed up, the glacier retreated. It cooled down, the glacier advanced to here. It warmed up, the glacier retreated. It cooled down, the glacier advanced to here. It warmed up, the glacier, you get the picture, don't you? The end of an ice age isn't just a slow, steady warming. It is a cycle of cooling and advances of the ice, warming and melting of the ice, cooling and advancing, warming and melting, advance, retreat, advance, retreat, advance, retreat. Number 5 is the important one for us. It's the one that passes through this neck of the woods. The advance, which is called the Grand Gorge Advance, named after Grand Gorge, a village very close to here, is mapped fairly carefully in this particular map. This is the Schoharie Creek Valley. Tannersville is on the lower right. Hunter, Windham is the W. Middleburg, I should have put a Middleburg letter. Middleburg be right about there. This is the Schoharie Creek Valley. The glaciers came in from the southeast through Tannersville. The glacier came down from the north through Middleburg. Other lobes of ice passed through Windham, and there was a great collision of the glaciers right here in the vicinity of Lexington. The next time you're in Lexington, pull over, get out of your car, look to the west and see a glacier coming from that direction, turn around, look to the east, the southeast, and see another glacier coming towards you from that direction. Thank you. Everybody's got to get me out, huh? And Clay, right where Lexington is, what a remarkable thing, a collision of glaciers happening in this village. The evidence is there if you know what to look for. Well, this is a bit of history that you should know. This glacier, this Grand Gorge Advance, is passed across Conesville up there in the the left middle. The ice came up the valley from that direction, and you've been here then and stood out on the soccer field. You're going to watch the glacier coming towards you over a period of time. And what a wonderful thing it is to ponder that and to understand that and appreciate that. It's part of your history, an important part of your history. Well, the ice got pretty thick and pretty big, and the focus here is on what it did to the Westkill Valley. And you can see the Westkill Valley, a lobe of ice advanced to the southwest, creeped up the valley and flooded the valley. Conesville was completely under the ice at this particular moment. Here's a better image of the Westkill Valley invasion of the ice. You've probably all been to Westkill Valley at one time or another. It's the village of Westkill. If you're really hardy and you love a good hike, climbing up Hunter Mountain's west slope gives you a wonderful view to the west. When you're at the top, if you ever go up there again, this is the view that you get. This is standing up there at the top of Westkill Valley, looking to the west. And there's something there that every trained geologist on the planet Earth would instantly notice. Maybe you don't see it. You're not a trained professional geologist. Maybe you're not seeing it, but it's there. Look at how the distant valley is U-shaped. You see the beautiful, smooth, gentle U that the Westkill Valley has? That is absolutely emblematic of the passage of an ice, the advance of a glacier. If you go to Switzerland, if you go to Greenland, if you go to places where there are active glaciations, you can see U-shaped valleys. Every geologist on the planet Earth would stand there and go, wow, ice age, advance of the ice coming up the valley. The glaciers created this wonderful scenery in our region, our vicinity. Well, the glacier only got to the eastern end of the Westkill Valley, and the climate began to warm up, as it so often does. That ice began to melt. There was no place for the water to go except to leave behind, at the eastern end of the valley, a lake, a meltwater lake, Glacial Lake Westkill. How can there not be a lake there? The ice is melting. And there are the sediments. We found this one day, 20 years ago, and you can't find it anymore. It's been overgrown with foliage. But this is ice age of lake deposits at the bottom of that picture. It was an exciting moment discovering this, being able to put your finger on the sediments of this lake. Well, where did the water go? The giveaway. It couldn't flow west, could it? There was a glacier in its way. It had to rise up and rise up and rise up and spill over what kind of mountain was there and flow off to the southeast in a powerful flow. Raging, foaming, pounding, thundering torrents of white water cascading down the valley and eroding its way off to the southeast. The key being in eroding its way to the southeast. creating diamond knots. Perhaps if you like to hike, you've been through diamond knots. The Lavender Trail is the one that people like to take. You walk from the north to the south, and the mountain rises above you. It's almost like having a cliff at either side. It's almost that steep. And it's so picturesque. It's why they put the trail there. You were already running. You were just about to, I beat you to it though. The trail is there because of this picturesque canyon. It's always attracted people. People always love to walk the trail, to look up and see the mountain rising on both sides. But now that you've been to this lecture, you not only know that there's a pretty canyon there, but now you understand it. It was carved by meltwater from the Westkill Glacier melting down the valley. What a wonderful thing it is for us when we go hiking down this canyon to appreciate how it formed, how it came into existence. It's just a whole other level of understanding, of appreciating, of enjoying the scenery of our Catskills. We've got a lot more to learn tonight. Well, the glacier continued its retreat, and now it's gotten all the way as far back as the village of Westkill itself, when Glacial Lake Westkill is much bigger than it had been, and it found another way to escape, a place that we call Deep Notch. The water, the meltwater, found it could get through there. Raging, foaming, pounding, thundering white water torrents flowed through the canyon, eroding it and creating Deep Notch. Here it is from the air. One of our readers flies his own planes and likes to take pictures. And whenever we need an aerial shot, we simply email him and say, "What do you got?" That's a good picture. You've never seen this before, have you? Deep Notch from the sky. It's a picturesque canyon, and I want you to fill up the valley in the south, the lower left corner with water, and I want you to put that white water raging through that canyon and flowing off into the distance. In your mind's eye, in your human imagination, you can create an Ice Age picture there. You can see the lake, you can see the flow of water through the notch, and you can see the rush of water off into the distance. It is picturesque, it's a beautiful picture, but now you understand it, you comprehend it. You're a little smarter than you were 20 minutes ago. Kristen.
Is that looking southwest?
A little more southeast, I think, yeah. Well, Johanna and I, wherever we go in the Catskills, this is the kind of imagery that we conjure up. On our way over here, we're riding down the road, and I'm peripatetic. I can't help it. That's a college teacher term, isn't it? On our way down the valley, approaching here, we both looked to the left. We saw the flat floor of the valley, and we both saw the lake, Lake Conesville that was here. And we realized we were driving on the shore of the lake. What a ridiculous thing to be able to claim. What a wonderful thing. Deep Notch from the ground. Isn't that pretty? You can appreciate, though, how powerful the flow of water was. If you're melting a very big glacier, you get that. Deep Notch looking north. You'll be there sometime, probably in the near future. Route 42, you probably take that every once in a while. The next time you pass through there, remember what you learned. If you feel like it, just pull over, get out, look to the north, and feel the water coming towards you. The powerful torrents of ice water flowing across you. There's no word for it. There's just no word for it. Well, the glacier retreated further, and now we see the ice has vacated most of the Schoharie Creek Valley. It's retreated to just a little bit Stony Cove. You know where Stony Cove is. The ice is blocking, I'm like, boy, you can't see that. The ice is blocking the valley, and you see we painted in lake. That's Glacial Lake Grand Gorge. And Glacial Lake Grand Gorge has found yet again another way to escape from the Schoharie Creek Valley. And of course, it's escaping down Stony Cove. You've been through Stony Cove how many times in your life? So many times. You've always enjoyed seeing it. It's picturesque. There's a little campground there, a little park there, and people go get out of their car park and get out and picnic. I think you can fish in that lake. But mostly you just stand there and you look at this picturesque landscape. When Johanna and I are standing where we took this picture, you look to the north, and rising up about halfway is a glacier. It's the Schoharie Creek Glacier. It's the Grand Gorge Advanced Glacier, and it is in full melt. The climate has warmed up. The ice is melting as fast as it possibly can, and coming straight towards us, raging, foaming, bounding, thundering whitewater torrents, cascading down the canyon, carving, eroding the canyon that you are seeing. Excuse me, young lady, you're enjoying yourself far too much. This is a science lecture. You're not having fun. I want to see no more smiles. I am a science professor. Okay, I want everybody to yawn. Oh. Well, let's get back to Glacial Lake Grand Gorge. And, oh darn, I wish I could do this. Grand Gorge itself is right there. And when the glacier melted back to the north, it's just disappearing off the map, and melted back to the southeast, it's just disappearing off to the map. Grand Gorge became the canyon, the exit, the way, the place where the water escaped. And it carved Grand Gorge. You've driven through Grand Gorge how many times? Was that Route 30, I think? And when you get to the very top, it's very narrow, isn't it? And now you know why. And now you know that Grand Gorge and Stony Cove and Deep Notch and Diamond Notch are a package that all essentially form during the melting of the ice that vacated the Schoharie Creek Valley. And one after another, these canyons came into existence, and the flow of water carved them. And there it is in the winter. It's one of my better photographs. I really was glad to get that one. In the height of winter, there's a turnoff. You can get out and look at Grand Gorge. The better view is from the south, and you see it's really a notch. And it really was carved just the way the other notches were carved. This is the water of Lake Schoharie escaping the lake, flowing down the east branch of the Delaware River, through Roxbury, onto Arkville, and then off to the southwest towards the proper Delaware River. This canyon is not just a pretty place, it's a pretty place with a very remarkable Ice Age heritage that now you understand. Well, the Middleburg stage of deglaciation witnessed the glacier retreating to Middleburg itself. And Middleburg is just in the lake at this moment in time. The very picturesque location there is, of course, Roman's Nose. I'll bet most of you hiked up to the top of Roman's Nose. Good, you're not smiling. Yeah, a couple yawns. Okay. The Middleburg, Roman's Nose towers above the lake bottom. You probably stood right there at the top of Roman's Nose and looked down at the valley floor below you, and never really quite noticed how flat it is. And never asked yourself the question, I wonder why the valley bottom is so wide, and why is it so flat? You see, if you're a geologist, you know to ask questions like that. And when you get answers to questions like that, they're exciting answers. Johanna and I walked out onto that surface, bringing a very sophisticated piece of scientific equipment, a barbecue skewer. We walked out onto this surface with a barbecue skewer. I was meant to bring that one in. I would have been hamming it up. And she's seen it before. And you drive it into the ground. It should go 1 inch, shouldn't it, hit a rock and not go any farther. But out there, it slides easily all the way down into the ground. There's no pebbles, there's no cobbles, there's no boulders on that surface. It is all silt. It is the bottom of a lake, and those are the sediments of a lake bottom. Lake bottoms are flat. They're usually composed of silt and fine-grained sand. That's what's there. If you go out there when they're plowing, take a look. What you won't see are cobbles. Cobbles at the bottom of the lake. Now, if you drive a mile or so to the east, they've just plowed a field. And if you just pull over and take a look, you'll see there's nothing down here but earth, sort of a reddish brown earth. And you'll see no cobbles, no boulders on the ground. You're looking at the bottom of Glacial Lake, Conesville. That's the first thing we do when we see a freshly plowed field. We look to see if there's cobbles. If there are cobbles, it's not a lake bottom. If there aren't any cobbles, it probably is a glacial lake. Makes standing at the top of Roman's Nose so much more interesting. And sometimes people say, "Excuse me, Herr Senior Full Professor Emeritus Dr. Titus, sir, how deep was the lake?" And the answer is about 700 feet. Yeah, that was a lot of lake. It came up to within 20 feet of the top of Roman's Nose. When Johanna and I stand at the edge of that cliff, we look down only 20 feet and we see the waters of Glacial Lake Grand Gorge just below us. That makes Roman's Nose, in our book, something we like to call Roman's Island. And here's a close-up. This is the Middleburg advance of the ice. There's Middleburg under the glacier, and there's Roman's Nose out in the middle of a very sizable lake. If you go up there again, if you bring your grandchildren, the grandchildren will eat this up. Yeah, stand on the edge, point down 20 feet, and tell that 6-year-old kid there was a lake right there. They'll love it. Mm-hmm. When they grow up and get their PhDs in geology, have them send us an email. Well, I'd like to talk about Esopus Creek. If you've been to Esopus Creek, if you've been to the Ashokan Center, we know Jay and Molly quite well. We go down to the Ashokan Center and participate in their events very frequently. It's a picturesque location, that's why it's a preserve, and it's got an Ice Age story to it, and an Ice Age story that we'd rather piece together. Here is that moment when Diamond Notch is active. West Hill Valley is filled with ice still, it's melting, the water is pouring down Stony Cove and then taking a left turn into Esopus Creek. Flowing is a pretty powerful flow of water, an erosive flow of water. But the glacier melts, retreats some more. It's a much bigger West Hill Lake. And now the water is flowing through Deep Notch as well as Diamond Notch. And there's so much more ice melting now that the powerful flow is more powerful, is more erosive. Esopus Creek is a far more scary looking stream to stand next to. The ice retreats to Stony Cove, and now we have flows through Stony Cove, through Diamond Notch, and through deep notch, all combining to make an extraordinarily powerful Esopus Creek flowing off to the south. And creating that, the walls at the Ashokan Preserve are cliffs. They are vertical on both sides of the stream. It's pretty, it's picturesque, it's why people go there, but now you know why. For the last 13,000 years, water has been flowing through there, and for the first couple thousand of those years, it was a powerful flow produced by a melting ice sheet. It was Antarctica melting all at once and flowing through the Esopus Gorge at Ashokan. There's a story behind the scenery, a story that's simple to understand, easy to understand, and powerful in its explanation for what brought you there. Yeah, I don't know. It's a little bit interesting. I'll give you that. It's a little bit interesting. And as a proof of it, this is called a pothole. Swirling currents of water carrying sand, drill holes in the bedrock. And this is at the top of the canyon at the Ashokan Preserve. And it speaks to us of that moment in time immediately after the Ice Age, when the flow going down the Esopus Creek was just beyond belief. I don't think there's any way I could try to describe what the flow of water was there at this minute, but there were swirling, powerful, auguring currents of water preserved in the bedrock. You have to earn my respect too.
I do.
Yeah, you can't just sit there and harass me. She's doing a very good job of it.
Well, good.
Yeah.
I'm glad somebody is.
I know you.
For some reason, I always get the last word.
Because he's a nice guy.
Oh, okay. Maybe. So, as you can see, and as you've seen, and as you've witnessed over your lifetimes, there are so many beautiful vistas in the Catskills and the greater Hudson Valley. We absolutely never tire of what we see. And we hope that you will now come to call what we call our gifts of the Ice Age. So we thank you for coming, and take a look at our page. And those are our Facebook pages and our blog and our email. We'd be happy to ask and entertain any questions that you've got. We'll try to answer them, no guarantee.
We'll try not to look too stupid. You.
And if you find something of interest, please email it to us, but send us a picture. We like pictures.
I have two questions. First, we always see the huge boulders that have, it looks like someone sliced them. Now, and we always have been told that that comes from the glaciers rubbing against the rocks. Is that how those things are formed?
They have on their surfaces very frequently what we call striations, glacial striations, where the rock is being carried by an advancing glacier. It's being pressed into the ground, the bedrock below it, and that scratches the surface and creates these scratches, these striations in them. From now on, when you're wandering around and you see boulders, there's no reason why you should have ever paid any attention to boulders in the past. But now I'd like you to look at them and see if you don't find scratches on their surface. And they take us back to a time when that boulder was at the front of an advancing glacier. And the glacier was pressing it into the ground below and dragging it across the surface. When we do this in a classroom, I scratch the blackboard.
So the other half of my question is, I don't know about other folks, but on our property, we can't dig 6 inches without bedrock or whatever. And so, is that, again, from the glacier depositing rock and it remaining there and as it moved on, or?
The technical word for what you're looking at is a ground moraine. The glacier bulldozed across your property, sat there for a long period of time, then melted. Well, the glacier was dirty. There was sand in it, there was gravel in it, there were cobbles in it, there were boulders in it. And as the ice melted away, that stuff didn't. It slowly lowered it down onto the surface that you call the grounds of your property. And that ended up with what they say, two rocks for every dirt, I think, which is accurate.
People for some reason, when they imagine a glacier, imagine not a glacier, but an iceberg.
Yeah.
An iceberg is pure water, it's beautiful, it's wonderful to see, but it's not a glacier. Glaciers push, and when they push, they literally turn forests into sawdust, and they turn boulders into rocks and pebbles and sand, and all that stuff gets incorporated into the glacier. And then when it starts to melt, it all falls out. And even a place where a glacier has passed by, you might find stuff like that because it's just melting from the friction of passing by another surface. And it happens all the time. We have, across the road from us, we have what was a glacial lake. And every time we garden, we curse our neighbors because they got the nice soil and we got the rocks. Yeah. So we know what it's like.
A couple of times I've hiked up Diamond Notch from the Lanesville side. Why is there so much loose stone? It doesn't look like glacial deposits. It almost looks worked. Was there quarrying done up there?
Yeah, yeah.
Don't know, could have been.
Yeah.
I mean, like on the banks, there's just a ton of what looks like,
Is it really angular?
yeah.
Probably, yeah, probably.
Maureen.
Yes, if I tug on my beard, why, scientists believe there was quarrying going on. And it looks well that way when you, like, yeah.
So I don't know if you can answer this, but I have a question regarding why the Adirondacks are so vastly different than the Catskills. I've hiked a lot in the Adirondacks, and I can't get my friends to really come down to the Catskills. I'm still trying to get them to come hike here. And I've noticed myself, it's not as compacted down here. There's like more nooks and crannies in the earth, and there's kind of energetically feels way different down here. And I'm just
Well,
wondering-
you'll have to have us back for our bedrock talk.
That way.
The answer is they are quite different geologically. Our Catskills, the colors are red and green. The red of the bedrock, the green of the forest. In the Adirondacks, there's an ugly black, dark gray bedrock. The green is okay, but the bedrock, I just never have liked the bedrock in the Adirondacks. They're about 500 million years older, and they've been through much more history, and they're not as picturesque as our red and brown bedrock. Our Catskill Mountains are a petrified delta, something equivalent to the Ganges River Delta of Bangladesh. If you took Bangladesh and you petrified it, lifted it a couple thousand feet, and had streams cut canyons through it, you would have something that looks precisely like the Catskills. It would take about 400 million years to do that. 400 million years ago, the Catskills looked like Bangladesh. 400 million years from now, Bangladesh will look like the Catskills. They're twins, separated only by time. And so the answer is that the Adirondacks are very, very, very old mountains that have been through numerous mountain building events. have been cooked by those events, subjected to great pressure, heated up to enormous temperatures, and metamorphosed by the process. It turned into something that just doesn't look the way it did when it's formed. Our Catskills are sedimentary rocks who have not had 400 million years. Now, golly, you don't have time to get anything done. They haven't been through one good, decent mountain building event, not even one. And so they haven't been altered. They look so much the way they did those many years ago. They've just been turned to rock. They haven't been changed in any other way. So indeed, our two mountain ranges, although so close to each other, are extremely different petrologically, geologically. Not a bad question. I'm glad you stayed awake during this.
Difficult.
Yeah.
I got a question for you. My name is Dennis. The glazes receded north.
Yep.
Right? So everything went north.
Yep.
Now the lakes that are up there, that you're showing the lakes, all right? How did you get this gorge?
Which one?
Did the lakes collapse? Did a lake collapse?
No, the gorges are the product of the glacier melting and the incredible flows of water.
What is that? I know one of the most powerful things, but I'm saying when you show the lakes in your video there,
Yeah.
why do you call it the gorge? Is it because it collapsed?
Oh, that was eroded. There was probably no collapse involved in it at all. Grand Gorge, to the best of my knowledge, hasn't had any substantial collapse involved in its creation, either stony.
My point is, all the lakes that you showed there, the big lakes.
Yeah.
Then you have the dark blue is a deeper lake.
Yeah. Oh, that's a reservoir.
Then where did the water go from that point?
Oh, well, it just drained away. A lot of it went down through the village of Franklinton, off down Catskill Creek. Currently, the water escapes to the Mohawk River Valley. Probably the best answer to your question
And then to the
is,
Hudson and then to the ocean.
yeah, they drained as the glacier melted to the north and access to the Mohawk River Valley opened up, and the water could drain into the Mohawk, down to the Hudson, down to the Atlantic Ocean, be gone. That's the best answer to your question.
Well, I thought because they called it the gorge that it, the water probably let loose one time.
Well, Johanna did describe just that. That was a singular event.
Yeah.
And the prolonged events were more ho-hum than her story, but very effective in the long term in draining a lake. The water found its way into the Hudson River.
Yeah,
We're talking about water flow that can move boulders the size of pickup trucks. Just,
Oh yeah, no,
You know.
but when they receded, they took them north, meaning they moved with them. Not
Back
that
to
they
the
took
north?
them- not that they took them south.
well, actually,
boulders.
eventually they all went south,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
There weren't any. There was a point where Glacial Lake Iroquois up at the top of the Adirondacks, the lake I was talking about, did for a period of time flow north into the St. Lawrence, or what we call the St. Lawrence today. But most of it just flows directly south. Finds its way.
Okay.
There are several ice ages, yes?
Mhm.
How come the North Pole had them all, or the north of the planet had them all? Were there in Antarctic
Ooh.
ice ages?
I hate it
Well,
when
there was a period of time that's called the snowball Earth,
Mhm.
when the entire Earth was covered with ice. So there were periods of time when that happened.
That was about 700 million years ago. And the term snowball Earth describes what the Earth must have looked like at that time, perfectly spherical and all white with ice.
So
We
it
got
couldn't
it
have
warmed up.
eroded. You would never get gorges in that. Because
If
You
it
need
didn't melt.
meltwater. You
Yeah,
need meltwater. Yeah.
It's the water flowing that makes all those things.
As the glacier came down the Schoharie Valley towards Grand Gorge, did it go up South Gilboa Road? And did it go all the way to Stamford?
It definitely went to Stanford.
Went through Stanford. It didn't stop until it got to Lexington, where it had that collision
Oh, okay.
with the other massive ice. It passed right through Stanford, right through Prattsville, and and all the way to Lexington.
If there was ice in Middleburg melting, where did it get out? It didn't go up the hill
It
and then down into
It
Grand
went down
Gorge.
the line to Catskill Creek.
most of it went down Catskill Creek,
Okay.
right past our house.
Yes.
And were you scared at that time?
No, we were too busy running uphill.
If you want a really good thing, okay, if you can use your imagination that well, go sit at the Mountain House site at North Lake, okay? Sit on the edge and imagine that catastrophic flood coming down the Hudson all the way up to the top.
Our next
That's
book,
the water.
is essentially the Hudson River School of Art and the Ice Age. And in that book, we're describing how the glaciers created the landscapes that the artists found so picturesque.
Ooh.
And in that book, we take opportunities over and over and over again to describe things including what Johanna just said, descriptions of what it was like when the glaciers were advancing across the landscape and creating it and melting and eroding it. The tone of the book will be anything other than a science lecture.
He's saying he's giving up science and going for the humanities now.
Yes, STEAM, science,
We're trying
technology.
to converge the two.
Oh,
Yeah. Science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics, STEAM. Yeah, we're very serious about that. I think we should get to the brownies, don't you think?
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We're not